doing, everybody, on this fantastic Thursday in the state of Wisconsin? If they're talking a little bit warmer weather today, we weathered out the snow. We got through it. It got cold. It's supposed to warm up a little bit. I'm not going to hold my breath, but I'm going to tell you it's telling me it's supposed to warm up. So good news on the weather front there. But this is Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. Today, Austin is back. He is with me today. How are we doing today, Austin?
I'm good. I'm back. I had to play a little bit of school yesterday, so couldn't join the podcast, but I'm glad to be back now to here today.
It's like he's trying to tell us he's got a life outside of talking to you guys about sports.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's enough about Austin's life. We don't care that much.
We don't care about me.
Just kidding. We care about you a little bit. But we have a lot we got to talk about today. We have to unpack some things. We have to get down to earth with what the heck's going on with Wisconsin sports. So with that, right away, we're going to jump into the Bucks because the Bucks played a game yesterday night against the Raptors, and well, let's just say it wasn't a very pretty game there. The Bucks were outscored in this one, 130 to 111. It wasn't really the third quarter. The Bucks looked a little bit better. 35 points in the third, but besides that, 18 points there in that first quarter. Looking at the box in this one, Giannis went for 16. Dame went for 15. Beasley led all scorers with 20. Brook Lopez for 6. And Middleton with 11. Portis came off the bench with 10. This was an ugly game all around. They couldn't stop the Raptors. And I saw the Raptors kind of debut a new defense against. Giannis couldn't get anything going because the Raptors packed the paint against them. They weren't worried about the Bucks shooting it from the outside. They just put 5 guys in the paint and waited for Giannis to do something. And he couldn't get it done. The shooters couldn't knock it down. And I see a lot of teams doing this from here on out against the Giannis and the Bucks, especially if the guys aren't hitting shots. What did you see during this game?
I see a lot of inconsistency. You know, if Dame isn't hitting his shots, then and Middleton obviously wasn't hitting his shots either, then like they don't have any perimeter threat out there. And, Giannis, he might make one 3-pointer, but, his primary threat is on the inside. So if you just lock that down and Dame's not hitting his shots, Middleton's not hitting his shots, what do you have left? You don't got much left, So I think the Raptors did a good job at, stopping the strengths of the Bucks. And yeah, I just see a lot of inconsistency from the Bucks right now.
They took away Giannis. Tough to see. Yeah, I mean, they took away Giannis's game, like you said. And you take away that inside stuff from Giannis, he becomes he's not really a two-dimensional player. He can't really hit it from outside. He can hit it a few. I mean, I'm not saying he's never going to hit a 3, but he's not consistent from the perimeter. And that makes him a pretty even player. I mean, he's on the inside, maybe a pull-up every once in a while he can knock down, but other than that, it's barrel to the basket. They did, like you said, did a heck of a job against him in this one. Siakam went for 26 for the Raptors. Schroeder had 24. Barnes put in 21. I mean, all the starters for the Raptors put up double figures in this one and shot pretty good from downtown, 39% from downtown, but 92% from the line. Only 14 free throws by the Raptors in that one. So the Bucks didn't put them to the line a lot. It's not like the Raptors beat them at the line. It was just a lot of, like you said, inconsistent shooting by the Bucks. You look at even their field goal percentage in this one for the Bucks, 46% shooting on this game. Looking at the Raptors on the flip side of that, 56%. So there's your big kicker in this one. And you look at the rebounds in this one, the Bucks were out rebounded by this Raptors team. Raptors put up 50 rebounds in this ball game to the Bucks 29. That's impressive. That is impressive because the Bucks are really lanky. They're long, and they have guards that go in there and rebound the basketball pretty well. To get out rebounded by dang near half, that's an impressive showing by the Raptors. They just wanted it more. I mean, it kind of seemed like they just wanted this game more than what the Bucks did in this ball game here. But like we said, 130 to 111 finish there. The Bucks will play Friday now, and they will have, it looks like, the Knicks coming up on Friday there, back at the Pfizer for a 6:30 tip there. that set up to be a pretty good game. We'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow, preview into that Bucks game against the Knicks. But with that, we got to jump over. What do you feel like? Do you feel like trying to decipher what Brian Gutekunst had to say about the Packers today, or do you feel like jumping into Badger basketball? What do you feel like? Because I feel like the Packer talk is going to get us a little bit irritated. Do we want to talk about the Badger basketball first?
Let's do Badger basketball first, huh?
I'm thinking so too. Because I know that Packer talk is going to be some irritation. So Badger basketball had their exhibition game last night against Stevens Point, and you're not really at Stevens Point. They're from the WIAC. You're not really going to get a good gauge on the Badgers, but you can see the little things in that ball game. And the Badgers came out on top, 87-44 in that one. AJ Storr led all scorers with 14 points. Led the scoring for the Badgers with 14 points in that one. In that ball game, some of the things that stood out to me were watching the Badgers. They were playing with a lot more tempo, trying to move the ball quick, get up and down the floor, work it fast, not trying to get deep into shot clocks like we're used to with Wisconsin. And I think that translates from having a lot. They went deep on the bench. They went 12 deep on the bench. I mean, we saw guys like John Blackwell, Nolan Winter, Carter Gilmore, Marcus Ilvers got minutes, Kamari McGee off the bench. I mean, they went 12 deep on this bench, and every single guy who came in, you couldn't have told me that they could not put up valuable minutes for the Badgers this upcoming season. And I thought that was really impressive to see. So in your opinion, with this Badger team moving forward, do you like the Badgers moving at a faster tempo? With a faster tempo, the only thing that worries me is when you get too fast, mistakes happen. And if the Badgers, and they hold true to this a lot, cannot shoot their way out of those bad moments, that worries me with this Badger team. So what do you think with it seemed like their tempo's up a little bit. What do you think with that moving forward for Wisconsin?
Yeah, I think now college basketball, it's all about speed. You don't really see a lot of teams getting the ball, taking their time, draining the clock or shot clock down a little bit, except for the Badgers. The Badgers have just been kind of known for that. And, I think since it is the way of basketball, I think they have to start adapting more that way. But like you said, if they start going too fast, maybe if they start playing a team that's faster than them, they could start turning the ball over, making more mistakes, which does worry me a little bit. But I'm looking at the stats here, and yeah, they went 9 for 24 for 3-pointers, which is 37%, which isn't terrible, but it's kind of still like you said, if they get behind, they don't really have the shooting, it seems like, just yet. I mean, first game, you never know. Connor Season had a couple good games back last year where he could hit the ball or hit the three ball a lot, but against a team like UW Stevens Point, you think you'd be able to see a lot more 3-pointers made, especially if you shoot 24 of them. But overall, I think, first game, exhibition game, it was good to see a lot of the guys get those minutes too. It seems like the past few years, we've kind of had 5, like the starting 5, and then one guy off the bench. Like last year was like Carter Gilmore or Connor Season. So seeing guys get valuable minutes and actually putting up decent stats, it's good to see that we finally have some depth on the bench for the Badgers.
Yeah, and going off of that, I completely get that's the way the game of basketball is going. And people like to say that it's ugly when Wisconsin plays slow. But I remember a lot of games where they've played, say, like North Carolina and other teams like that. And I have specifically said the one thing they have to do is avoid trying to play North Carolina's game. Avoid trying to run with the basketball. There's moving slow, and then there's moving slow. You can play with tempo, but then there's also setting up a half-court set, working the ball, working the paint, and getting those good shots up. And that's where I fear with tempo, Wisconsin could fall into what we've seen out of teams like Kentucky, Duke at times, other teams like that where they move too fast and they're not getting good shots. They're putting up a lot of shots, but they're not getting good shots up. And that's where I worry Wisconsin may fall into, especially like you said, we're not quite there with the shooting it's exhibition, so we don't know. First time out, like you said, it could be, jitters, everything like that. But from what I saw, the shots were just not falling, and that happens. It's going to happen. But what I like to see was that Wisconsin got inside, and they knew that they had the size advantage against this Stevens Point team, and they took advantage of it with Stephen Crowell. It's good to see Crowell get involved in there, and also Nolan Winter getting involved in the paint, Tyler Wall getting involved in the paint. A lot of the bigs utilizing the paint there. That was good to see out of this Wisconsin team. Another thing that impressed me with Wisconsin there is that along with going deep on the bench there, John Blackwell and Nolan Winters play in this ball game. Nolan Winter, John Blackwell, those guys seem like guys that we could see consistently throughout the season getting big minutes. Nolan Winter was the first guy off the bench for Wisconsin in this one, playing the big for Stephen Crowell. And Nolan Winter didn't really back down from the challenge there. He embraced it. Hit a couple of big shots for him there early, had some shots in the paint there, worked his feet. He's still got growing to do. You can tell. He's still got some growing to do, getting used to the Big Ten. He's going to get his wake-up call when they play Zach Edey in Purdue. That's going to be a big wake-up call for some of these freshmen, is seeing Zach Edey down there. But Wisconsin looked better at the aspect of getting the ball in the paint, and when they get in the paint, finishing at the rim. What worried me with Wisconsin was that it still seemed like at times there wasn't an offense. They were getting stagnant. They weren't working the ball anymore. There was a lot of one-on-ones. Tyler Wall driving into three guys, turning the ball over. Chucky playing one-on-one with a step-back three. There was still a lot of that, and that's my worry. You know, you go back to the early Greg Gard days, or even back to Bo Ryan, it was a swing offense. They ran that swing offense for the longest time. The only time that they went away from the swing offense was when Bo Ryan had the guys of Frank Kaminsky, Sam Decker, Bronson Koenig, all them guys. They went away from it because they ran set plays for Frank. They ran set plays for Sam Decker. That was a different team. That was a loaded up team that was primed and fueled. And this team has the option. I mean, AJ Storr is impressive. He's athletic. He can get to the rim. I compare AJ Storr athleticism to Khalil Iverson. Shooting, a lot better. He is Khalil Iverson who can actually hit a three. That's where I look at AJ Storr. He's got that outside game, but can also jump out of a gym. I mean, AJ Storr was impressive. Got into the starting lineup tonight. I don't know if that's going to be what comes out in that Arkansas State game, but he was in the starting lineup instead of Esiason. I could see it benefiting having Esiason coming off the bench there as a scorer, as that guard coming off the bench for you that can ring it up from downtown. I could see that being a benefit for Wisconsin. But like I said, the most impressive thing right now is that Wisconsin is going this deep on the bench. 12 guys. I could realistically see all 12 that played tonight getting minutes throughout the season there. And that's the great thing for Wisconsin right now. And one guy we did not see, Gus Yeldon, Gus Bus, he's temporarily away from the team right now. Family issues going on. It's supposed to be a short leave. No, we don't really have much more info than that of what's going on. Hopefully everything is okay. Nothing's going on that's tragic or anything like that. You know, so prayers to him that everything is okay and that he will be back with the Badgers here coming up on Monday, because that is their tip-off against the Arkansas State. What is Arkansas State's mascot? Are they the Warthogs or something?
Honestly, I don't know. It's a wolf. The Wolves?
Wolf? Yeah, the Red Wolves. The Arkansas State Red Wolves. That's going to be a big game for Wisconsin there, because you have to get fine-tuned, because then coming up that Friday, you will have number 9 Tennessee coming to town there to take you on at the Kohl Center. So that's going to be a big tune-up game for Wisconsin there. We are just getting into Badger basketball. Excited after watching that exhibition. I know it's exhibition, but we saw some good things come out of that one and saw some of these guys who have a lot of promise coming up into this early season here. But with that, now's the time. We got to jump into the Packers. We have to talk about Brian Gutekunst talked yesterday in a press conference, and I listened to the whole thing. If you haven't listened to it, check it out. I mean, there was a lot of stuff in there, made you scratch your head a little bit. I took some of the key points out of that interview, or out of that presser, and really want to emphasize on them. So started out. It was about a 30-minute press conference there with them, and they gave a ton of questions to him. So if you haven't listened to it, make sure you check it out. But like I said, I went through a few of them, and they asked Gutekunst. They talked about the Rasul Douglas trade, and they wanted to know about what his view was on the trade deadline. So Gutekunst came back with that, and he said, we looked at a lot of possibilities of adding. There really just wasn't, quite frankly, much of an add. There really wasn't much to look at, to be honest. I also think that those guys, if they make the plays I know they're capable of making, this thing can turn around quickly. Where's he looking? Where is he looking that those guys make those plays, this thing can turn around quickly? Where was he looking that there was no options out there? Because there were definitely receivers who were on the trade block in this at the trade deadline. Definitely receivers out there. You make the right phone call, you can get somebody coming to Green Bay. In my opinion, we don't know what Jordan Love has truly because he's working with a bunch of rookies. If you put Jordan Love in the situation, you got him a veteran. You got him a veteran or two, say. And we still have problems. We still have incompletions. We still have the inconsistent play. Then do we look a little bit closer at Jordan Love? Then do we say, is Jordan Love a little bit more of a problem? What do you think with that? Because right now, with what Gutekunst is saying there, he wasn't going to make a move because he feels the Packers have what they need right now. And to me, I don't think they have close to what they need. I think they are lacking at the wide receiver room, and I think they're definitely lacking in the backfield right now. Everybody wants to blame the offensive line, but if you look at the Packers stats, I covered them yesterday. But if you look at the Packers stats on the season, I gotta pull them back up here. Add them up. Now I lost them. Packers sacks on the season here, they are actually in the league right now, sitting at 14. Jordan Love has been sacked 14 times. Now, if you put that into perspective with the most sacked team in the National Football League, the New York Giants have been sacked 41 times. So that's telling me that we're sitting here and everybody wants to blame the offensive line. Oh, they're not giving Jordan Love enough time. We're not giving Jordan Love enough time. Apparently, he doesn't have the ball when these defenders are getting through our offensive line because we keep blaming the offensive line. The pressure's on Jordan Love, yet he's not making the throw. The ball's out. We got 14 sacks on the season. The ball's gone. So what's happening after that throw? And that's where I'm looking right now with this Packers team. We don't have playmakers in the wide receiver room right now. We have potential of playmakers, but we don't have a veteran presence in there. So what do you think with that? Do you think Gutekunst was right in saying that there was no options and nothing could have helped? Basically saying nothing could have helped the team right now because we have the capabilities. We just have to make the play.
Yeah, I think, he could have tried something at least. Obviously, we don't have what it takes to be good right now. Just bringing in the slightest of a veteran to help out that wide receiver group or something, I think that would have been huge. Or some running back, something to help Jordan Love produce better. And like you said, people always love to get shots at the lineman, huh? And it's always, whenever something good happens, it's never the old lineman. Whenever something bad happens, it's always the old lineman, But, yeah, definitely like what you said. We definitely should have got someone in there that's a veteran for these wide receivers. And if he said that there's no one, like they weren't trying to, or there was no one to get out of any of the trades, then I'll just cut right to it. Then why are we giving someone away? That's very crucial on our team.
Hey,
if there's no one to
hold on, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to him.
I'm just saying, I won't jump too far, but like if there's nothing to get, then why are we giving? And we should have been getting some on the offense and not giving away some on the defense, for sure.
The Broncos were actively shopping Cortland Sutton. Sutton was out there.
Perfect veteran right there.
Yep. I mean, they were also shopping Judy. I didn't want Jerry Judy, but Sutton was out there. That's a veteran presence that could help these rookies, and also gives you a little bit more insight on what's going on with Jordan Love. Now,
Gutekunst is just afraid of wide receivers, I feel like. He's just afraid of the thought of wide receivers.
He's afraid of the thought of good wide receivers. We'll take shots in the third, fourth round wide receiver. The guy out of I can't even name some of the colleges that we go out of. I mean, we're not going from Clemson. We're not getting guys from Alabama. We're not taking guys from Georgia. We're taking North Dakota State, South Dakota State, just the most
Charlotte.
Yep. Guys that you've never heard of, not proven, and we have to work with them for 15 years, then possibly they might turn into something.
And then we tell the quarterback, make it work.
Yep.
Especially a young quarterback, it's tough.
Yep.
It's definitely tough.
So then he went on to say, and they talked to him about Rasul Douglas. And he was sent, we didn't talk about it yesterday. I really wanted to listen to Gutekunst explain it first before I busted a gut on it. And they traded Douglas and a 5th-round pick to Buffalo for a 3rd rounder. It's basically that told us the Packers are in a full-on rebuild. When you trade away a guy like Rasul Douglas, you could almost put him as somewhat the backbone of your defense. The guy who is a leader, who is always right there to pick the next guy up, to help out when he can. It kind of points me towards that means we're in a rebuild right now. We're far from being close to contention. We're going all in on this rebuild. Okay, we're going in on a rebuild. That's fine. That's fine. What worries me then is we trade Rasul Douglas, but Joe Barry still has a job. Does it make you wonder? So they came out a couple weeks ago and said that there was a undisclosed Packer who came out and basically said the defense goes into the game, they don't make adjustments, they go into halftime, they make somewhat of an adjustment, they don't know what the heck's going on, and then basically all hell breaks loose on the field. It makes you wonder if Rasul Douglas was that guy. He's talking out now. They said after the game he was standing in the corner with Wicks, and I can't remember who the other one was, and he was talking to him in the corner, and he was trying to hype him back up. Walking off the practice field, he was hyping up Jordan Love. That's the guy we trade. The guy who is that leader who's trying to get everything back on track. After the game, he was pissed. I mean, everybody on the defense was pissed. Why are they pissed right now? You look at what Aaron Jones had to say after the loss, and he said he was, very emotional when he was talking. He said, it hurts me because it feels like we are letting them down on the offensive side. A quote out of his whole presser that he had. And that's basically saying that the offense is letting this defense down. The defense is pissed. We saw it from Jair Alexander. He said basically we just have to score to make something happen. And that's where my question mark is, because then Gutekunst went on to say he kept stressing the team's focus on beating the Rams. He kept talking about it through this entire press conference. We're just focused on beating the Rams. We're focused on beating the Rams. Okay, so then you trade Rasul Douglas. So the reporter followed up and said, how does trading Rasul Douglas help you beat the Rams? And Gutekunst came back with, you look at all of it, he said. You look at where your team is at. We have plenty of young players at the position we really like and want to see play. We need to see play. My job is to keep an eye on the right now, but also an eye on the future. Getting a pick in the top 100 was something that I didn't think we could pass up on at the time. And then went on to say, after they asked him what exactly are the benefits of trading Douglas, he said it's a pretty good class coming up, but it's more about that's a 4-year rookie contract. It also frees up a significant amount of resources for the cap next year as well, said Gutekunst. It's everything that was involved in that, and then just looking at our team right now as some of the young guys that need to play and making sure we know what we know there as well. Okay, so what you're saying there is Douglas's contract was not that big. Not your killer to your cap. Your killer to your cap right now is the dead money that you have sitting there with Rodgers, with Bakhtiari, with some of these other guys who are on the shelf. You have Mason Crosby still on the books right now. You still have guys on the books who aren't even playing for you at the moment. Rasul Douglas was not the killer on the cap. How does this benefit you moving forward? Rasul Douglas is a leader in that locker room. We talked about a couple times now, you and I have, the lack of leadership that the Packers have on the defensive side, on the offensive side. Rasul Douglas is a proven leader of this defense. I mean, you look at, I couldn't compare it. I was thinking about it, and I was like, okay, how do you compare this trade to something? And it's not as detrimental to the season as what the Josh Hader trade was. You know, back when the Brewers trade away Josh Hader in the middle of a pennant race and everything like that. But what I looked at it as, in the same scope of things, now you're telling the guys, okay, we're abandoning this season. I mean, we're throwing in the towel right now. We are in a rebuild for sure now. We never said it before, but we're for sure in a rebuild now. That's basically what I got out of that trade. And when it broke, I feel like it broke the team just as much as seeing Josh Hader leave the Brewers at that time, just for a comparison there. Because you look at the only thing I saw on Keyshawn Nixon's Twitter after the trade was a broken heart. That's all he said, broken heart. And you want to tear apart the locker room more than it already is, because we know this locker room is torn right now. The offense can't get anything going. The defense is out of sorts. The offense is out of sorts. The only thing we got basically going for us right now is we can punt. We know how to punt the ball away. That's basically all that we got going. We don't even have a great punter. But that's where I'm at right now with this situation, is that the Packers are torn, and you just tore it apart even more. You might have just lost the locker room completely, and that's something with a young team you can't do. So now, what do you do moving forward? What do you get out of the Rasul Douglas trade? I mean, I just went through a lot of crap there, but what do you get out of that trade?
I look and I'm like, yeah, he is. I mean, I've talked trash about Rasul Douglas a couple times on here, but then I also think, I'm like, I mean, you think about a leader, I'm like, a leader, you want them playing a lot of games, who's been there, who've made plays before. Rasul Douglas has done that for us, I'll admit. And how many times has he been injured not playing games for us? Not that many times that I can think of. He's always out there giving 100%. And we might want to talk crap about him, but he is a darn pretty good football player for being a free agent or being signed off the waivers. He was huge when we picked him up. And so for us to just kind of throw him away for a third round pick, it is kind of hard to see. And I feel like you said, we're kind of just throwing away our season away by how he said that. You know, we're kind of trying to rebuild because we think that this third round pick inside top 100 can get us a better player. Well, buddy, we want to try and win right now. We ain't trying to win in 2 years, a year. We want to win right now. I mean, if you look at it, we're still in the race. Like, the NFC North isn't a very good division. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, the lines are pretty good, but the other teams, we are still right in there with it. So for us at the trade deadline, be giving away one of our best defensive backs and a fifth round pick, mind you, for a third round pick, it was tough to see when I saw that. I was walking down into our locker room, and one of my buddies was like, the Packers had a trade. And I was getting excited. I'm like, oh, it's got to be a wide receiver. It's got to be something, you know? And he's like, yeah, don't get too excited. And so I'm fumbling around on my phone trying to find him, like, third round pick, Rasul Douglas and fifth round. I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing, man? So it is tough to see. And I saw a thing on Instagram, like it was either a day or a few hours before he was traded. He was all decked out in Green Bay Packer gear. If you think of someone's actually toxic to your locker room, and then he's decked out in all your organization stuff, maybe you're looking at the wrong person, man. Because it seems like to me that Rasul Douglas was that guy that everyone just liked to be around. He seemed pretty humble, and yeah, it's just tough to see him go to the Bills, by the way, who is already pretty good. So
my thought with it was that, I was just saying, with that undisclosed player, Rasul Douglas was the person talking out. And they said to themselves, well, we can't have this, because if Rasul's getting on our case right now, we might lose the locker room. You already did. But with that being said, it's just kind of surprising that to see a guy like Rasul Douglas go, just that it was a weird it wasn't really expected kind of trade. And that's where I'm kind of sitting with it right now.
He was definitely one of the last people I think would have been traded. Like, he was last on my mind when I'm like, oh, who on our team could be getting traded? Definitely not him.
I thought like maybe Preston Smith, see a guy like Preston Smith go. Maybe I don't. Preston Smith was the big one for me. I kind of thought maybe Preston Smith would be on his way out. I didn't really see any other guys leaving this Packers team. I thought they were going to stay standstill. I wasn't surprised if they stayed standstill. I mean, you look at it was a while back, but they asked Mike McCarthy when he was still coaching Packers. They said they asked him about the trade deadline and what the process is like, and he goes, "Well, isn't that next week?" And like it was that day, but he was making that joke that like the Packers are so like stagnant at the trade deadline, they never make a move. That's the running joke that it's like, oh, I thought that was next week. That's today. Oh crap. Oh, we missed it. Darn it. I mean, that's the way it looked, and now you make this move. That's the move you make. It just pointed me in the direction that this runs deeper than Rasul Dog. That it runs deeper than we had to jump on it because we were going to get a player in the top 100. It makes me think that it's deeper than that, and that's where my worry is. Brian Gutekunst has constantly screwed the Packers throughout the years. He's made some good moves. Don't get me wrong. He's made some good moves. But at the same time, he's made some god-awful moves. That's where I'm at right now with the Packers. Moving forward, I give it a year. Because right now, you are on the level with the Bears. Honestly, you are on the same level as the Bears right now. And the Bears are, I mean, to be the nicest thing I could possibly say about the Bears, trash. They're at the bottom of the league. You lost to the Broncos, the worst team in the NFL. You lost to the Broncos. If you don't beat the Bears next time around, if you don't win a couple more games here, going into the offseason, going into next season, you really have to look at this coaching staff for the Packers and see if that's what you need moving forward. And I'm not talking you just completely abandon Matt LaFleur. I've talked about it. Maybe that's the problem. I think you get a solidified offensive play caller in there. Because right now, Matt LaFleur's got a lot on his plate. He's trying to control the defense. He's trying to control the offense. Get a guy. Nobody liked Nathaniel Hackett. But I thought Nathaniel Hackett did a pretty good job when he was in Green Bay as the offensive coordinator, as that guy in Aaron Rodgers' corner. He was that guy for the Packers. Now, get an offensive coordinator in there. Get rid of Joel Barry. Get a real defensive coordinator. Keep Matt LaFleur on as your head coach, not your head coach who's calling the plays. As the head coach of the football team, the guy that everybody can rally around. Because right now, it's hard to rally around a guy when nothing's working. You get somebody else in there who can get it, right the ship again. Matt LaFleur becomes that respected coach once again that the Packers need, that the players can rally behind it. And that's what I think is going to be key in this next offseason for the Packers, is to make moves like that. Because then Gutekunst went on and he was talking about Jordan Love. And they asked him the question about his performance so far. And he said it's been a little bit up and down. Like our entire offense, it's been a work in progress for the entire offense. There's been glimpses, particularly in the second halves, that are really good football, but we have not started out very well. And he went on to talk about, we've got 10 games. They asked him about what your timetable is on Jordan Love, because if you start to struggle here, the Packers will be in the top 5 probably for a draft pick going into next year. So is it an option to look at another quarterback to bring into that room out of the draft? And he said, we have 10 games left. It's going to be a very important 10 games. I think he's done a lot of really good things. I really like the way he's responded to adversity, how he's led the team. We've got to get better as a unit. And he went on to say there will be a time for that. That was on that fit. They might be in the top 5 for the draft. He said there's a time for that if they're going to consider drafting a replacement. There's a time for that. Right now, we're focused on beating the Rams. Like I said, about 50 times he told us they were focused on beating the Rams. And he said we have a lot of faith in Jordan. We've got to get the offense playing better. And when that does, those things will take care of themselves. Okay, so we unfold that. We bring it back. So what he's telling us is that if the offense starts to fire on all cylinders, everybody's running the right routes, There's no pre-snap penalties, ridiculous. The rushing game starts to go. Okay, now we can evaluate Jordan Love. And that's where we were just talking. The lack of veteran wide receivers, somebody to right the ship here, is not allowing us to truly see what Jordan Love has. If everything was running perfect and Jordan Love still struggled, now we say, okay, we got to find somebody else. Sean Clifford, put him in. Draft a replacement for Jordan Love. Whatever you got to do. Sean Clifford could be an option. He really could. He impressed in the preseason. He could be an option. Don't count out Sean Clifford yet, because I like what I saw of the preseason. I liked what I saw at Penn State. I think he could be a huge option for the Packers there. But Jordan Love needs to prove it with the guys he's got right now. He needs to prove a little bit of something. Otherwise, there's going to be a tough decision to make.
You start seeing this especially with the Raiders and the Falcons now. Falcons are now starting Taylor Heineke. The Raiders are starting some rookie, and they're benching Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, I can't remember the last time Jimmy Garoppolo has been actually like benched besides getting an injury. You see these other teams, like, they're starting to realize that their teams aren't making any progress. They're making decisions. So I don't know. You look at the Packers. I mean, you give Jordan Love a couple more weeks, but I mean, if it's not getting the work done, then you might as well put Sean Clifford in there and see what he can do. And also, you might take a look at how stable is Brian Gutekunst's job at the GM level. I mean, if you take a look, I mean, yeah, he's done a couple good things, but I mean, the majority of it is it's just kind of an average GM. He hasn't really done a lot of big things to help our team win. I mean, with the draft, he's done a couple good draft picks, but like I feel like sometimes the fans even know better than the GM, just a little bit. I mean, GM is a tough job. I'll give him that, but like when we know what's wrong with the Packers, as in like the wide receiver, and then we're ranked for like 5th round for a wide receiver. Nah, we need that in the 1st round. It's just you take a look and it's like, is Brian Gutekunst on the hot seat for the Packers?
I completely agree with that there. You know, you look at years past, we moved up in the draft to take Jordan Love. How many good wide receivers did we pass up on that way up the draft board there to take Jordan Love? When was that? Was what, 2020?
Yeah, around there.
I want to see, looking up here, the 2020 NFL draft. Yep. So the Packers moved up in that draft to take Jordan Love. They got him in the 22nd pick in that draft there. So we look at guys who were taken after that in the 2nd round, because the 1st round there, to end it, you look at guys like linebackers you had in there, cornerbacks, a running back there by the Chiefs to end it. But you look into the 2nd round. T. Higgins, first guy off the board in the 2nd round, 1st pick in the 2nd round there. Michael Pittman Jr. went as the 2nd pick in the 2nd round there. DeAndre Swift. Now, coming out of college, DeAndre Swift was a heck of a running back. Yeah. 3rd pick there. Jonathan Taylor, a Wisconsin guy. Proved it in college, still on the board. You look at even down the list here, I mean, I'm trying to find guys who are, I mean, Chase Claypool was a little bit of something there. Von Jefferson went as the 25th pick. I mean, the list goes on. Denzel Mims was still on there. Denzel Mims never really had a shot. He went to the Jets, but Mims was still on there. Packers took A.J. Dillon then with the 30th pick. But you had guys galore still on this board. You even look at the cornerbacks that were still available. Trayvon Diggs, who ended up with the Cowboys there, went in that 2nd round to the Cowboys. I mean, that's just the amount of guys that the Packers passed up on. Antonio Gibson. We could go all day. We could go all day going through this draft and looking at wide receivers that the Packers passed up on. You moved up. You had Aaron Rodgers. You knew you were going to have Aaron Rodgers for a little bit yet. You moved up in the draft, and you took a chance on Jordan Love. And looking back on it now, is that really the best move the Packers could have made there? Because you look at what they got out of the pick. No big turnaround coming right now. No more Super Bowls for Aaron Rodgers after that pick. The Packers fell short twice as the number 1 seed in the NFC after picking Love. And maybe an impact first-round player like T. Higgins, like these other wide receivers, could have been the difference that could have gotten the Packers over that hump. Even you look at the defensive guys who went after that. You had Zach Vaughn, who's been playing good for the I think he's with the Saints yet. He played good coming out of college there. You have defense. Defense killed you against the Buccaneers. You had defenders left. The Packers were known to take defensive guys in the first round. We passed up on that. We passed up on receivers once again, and we went after this unproven guy from Utah State who didn't really impress in college that much. We took a shot. And that shot right now, as you've seen Packers history, like I just said, with the lack of getting over that hump, killed them. Killed the Packers. We don't see a turnaround in sight right now. And it really worries me with the Packers moving forward there. What the future is in Green Bay. We're not used to a rebuild. We've had so much success over the years, it's hard to really factor a rebuild. This rebuild, I've seen rebuilds. I mean, we're Brewer fans. We've seen rebuilds galore. But even in those rebuilds, there's still moments where you see a guy or you see another guy. I'm not seeing it. I haven't seen it on the offensive side yet, that's for sure. I've seen moments of maybe Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, but I haven't seen it in Love. I haven't seen it. Christian Watson is like a piece of paper that you just threw into a lake. I mean, he's going to shrivel up at some point. He is like, it seems like every game, one hit and the guy is injured. Like he's out. He gets one hit and he's out. He can't, he's like broken. I don't know what's going on. He tried to reach back and catch a bad Jordan Love pass and he hurt himself. I mean, that's where we're at with Christian Watson right now. But the last point that was in that Gutekunst presser was the thought of tanking. They asked him the question of if the Packers are basically just tanking the season. And he quickly brushed that off and he goes, I don't think people tank. No, that's a lie. People tank. I really don't. People make decisions based on their situation, but I don't think anyone in the league tries to tank. They may look at the situation and they are rebuilding for the future, but they're not tanking. They're not trying to lose. Okay, you traded away one of your cornerstone defensive players, one of your best players on your defense. You traded them away. So how did that help you? Because you emphasized, like we were talking about, you emphasized in this presser 1,000,001 times that you were focused on the Rams. You were focused on beating the Rams. And yet you tell us that, and now you go back on this that we're going to rebuild now. And that just really makes me wonder what the state of the Packers is.
Yeah, say the Packers, I mean, if it's a rebuild, you know what? It's a rebuild, and we're going to go along with it. But the whole tanking thing, I mean, if you're telling me tanking isn't real, what about tank for Tua? Huh? That was definitely real, and it definitely happened. And now look at the Miami Dolphins. I mean, Miami Dolphins are the best offense in the league. But I don't like.
They taught him how to fall, and that led to a successful career.
Yep. So I mean, I hope the Packers don't tank, and heck, he could probably be saying that they're not going to tank, and then secretly behind the scenes they're probably going to tank. But I mean, even if we tank, who are we going to tank for? Because we ain't going to pick a wide receiver or a quarterback in the first round. I guarantee you that. So we're going to tank for what? A defensive back? Oh, great. We've been picking defensive backs first rounds for the past 5 years.
I tell you what, though, that third round pick that we got will be utilized on a wide receiver. We will get a wide receiver out of that. Probably out of like Elkhorn State. I heard that they have a 1-star recruit at Elkhorn State who will be entering his name into the NFL draft. So I could see that guy getting into the Packers organization.
We got some pretty good DBs here at UW La Crosse, D3 level, huh? How about we get a couple guys going there at the third round pick, huh?
I wouldn't put it past Brian Gutekunst to make that phone call. I would not put it past him.
Brian Gutekunst, he actually was a football manager at UWL, so there's a little bit of a connection there, you know.
He's making phone calls back, trying to pick up some linemen, possibly some corners, and a wide receiver in the 5th round. He will be picking up a wide receiver in the 5th round from UW Lacrosse.
Yep.
But with that, that was a heck of a conversation right there. That was a lot. That was a lot that we had to unfold there, try to understand. And if you haven't listened to the full presser, I took the cliff notes for you. I don't know if you really want to listen to it because it frustrates you even more than anything. But give her a listen. Give her a listen and let us know what you think. But with that, we got to check out tonight. We have the Titans and Steelers will be facing off on Thursday night. That should be a good matchup. Will Levis looked pretty darn good in that first game that he played there for the Titans. Steelers defense always playing well. Mike Tomlin always gets the 10 wins somehow. What do you have for a prediction for this one here tonight?
I'm going to take the Steelers.
Steelers?
I think their defense, you like Will Levis? You know, I'm not going to hate on Will Levis. I mean, the man's been through a lot, especially with, you see his girlfriend and all that stuff. I ain't going to get in all that, but kid's definitely been through a lot, so I love him seeing that he's succeeding. But I'm going to take the Steelers in this one.
Dude puts mayonnaise in his coffee. That's all I'm going to say. Anybody who can put mayonnaise in the coffee, you got my respect. That is respect. That is about, there's nothing more I can say to that. Gross.
Yeah, first off, mayonnaise isn't the best condiment out there. And then you mix it with coffee. Like, is it straight coffee? Is there any creamer in there? Either way, it's mayonnaise.
It's black coffee, and he throws mayonnaise in
it. Is that how you get to the NFL? Mayonnaise and coffee?
We could try it.
I mean, I guess I've been doing my life all wrong this whole time.
You'd be playing at Alabama right now if you just put mayonnaise in your coffee.
Now I'm rethinking my life choices. Now thinking about mayonnaise and coffee. Get me off of this.
But with that, we want to jump over quickly and look at the college football rankings right now. I'm just going to run through the top 10 that they released the first college football playoff ranking. Ohio State came in at number 1. Georgia came in at number 2. Michigan came in the 3 spot. Florida State in the 4. Washington came in that 5. Oregon in the 6 spot. Texas in the 7. Alabama at 8. Oklahoma at 9. And Ole Miss at 10. The thing that got me was that Ohio State was in the number 1 spot. And the only reason I say that is because Ohio State struggled opening game against Indiana, and they struggled against Wisconsin. That's where I look at those two, because then when I look at the team that I think they should have got replaced by, I look at Michigan on the season so far. They have trounced everybody. Indiana, 52-7. Michigan State on prime time. That's still a rivalry game. Even though Michigan State's struggling, 49-0 they lost to Michigan. Looking at the Nebraska game, 45-7. Minnesota, 52-10. Rutgers, 31-7. You can imagine the rest of it's Eastern Carolina, UNLV, and Bowling Green, all blowouts. Michigan has blown out everybody and proven they are one of the best teams in college football. So when I look at the playoff rankings, that's my biggest question mark. Georgia, I see them in the 2. I could have seen them in the 3 just because they truly haven't been tested yet. They had a game against Kentucky that they blew out Kentucky. But other than that, I mean, games against Florida, Vanderbilt, UAB, South Carolina, Ball State, and UT Martin, not really tested yet. They're going to get tested here. This week they have Missouri, then they play Ole Miss, then they play Tennessee. So they're going to get tested here in the next coming weeks. But Michigan has proven to be that dominant team. So to my college football ranking right now, I switch those two around. I switch Michigan to the top. I have Georgia in my 2. If not, Georgia in my 3, and then Ohio State in the opposite one. The 4 spot got tricky with me because I thought maybe Washington could sneak into that 4 spot there over Florida State. Oregon, big win for Washington. They're going to have USC coming up. Utah, Oregon State, a couple of big games there. I look at this Florida State team. Their biggest win came against Duke. And Duke currently isn't residing really that well. LSU, they got the win. That was a big win for them early on. But I just like Michigan. I like what they've done. I don't like Michigan personally as a Badger fan. Don't like Michigan, but I think they got snubbed there as that number one team. What do you think looking at the rankings? Where would you have placed that, especially in that top 4 or 5?
I don't think Ohio State should be number one, considering like their last performance against Wisconsin. Wisconsin's not a, even though we're Wisconsin sports fans, they're not the strongest team, I'd say. And for Ohio State to only beat them by 14 points, I don't think that's a one spot worthy. But do you think Michigan being at 3? Do you think that has anything to deal with the possible cheating allegations, possibly? And I mean, that's a possibility for them right there.
It could be. It could be losing your head coach like that, everything in between. It could be a thought, but I don't penalize, to me, I don't penalize the play on the field so far. And the play on the field, the proof is in the pudding with Michigan. They're blowing out everybody. I mean, if Michigan, looking at their schedule here, if they have Purdue coming up, and then they're going to play Penn State, and then they have Maryland, then they play Ohio State to end the year. If you blow out Penn State and you beat Ohio State, and if it's a shellacking, that's the number one team in college football. Hands down. Hands down. I don't care. Big Ten championship, the Big Ten West is terrible, so whoever comes out of there, the East is going to win it. I don't care who comes out of it, whether it's Wisconsin or anybody in between. I have no faith in the Big Ten West. If Michigan goes undefeated, shellacks Penn State, or outright beats Penn State, outright beats Ohio State, that's the number one team in college football. I don't care if Jim Harbaugh's not there. That's the number one team in college football. J.J. McCarthy has been impressive for Michigan. They have an impressive run game. I mean, the defense is great for Michigan. It's all around a heck of a football team. I do agree it might be because of some of the outside noise, but I wouldn't penalize them. That is my number one team in college football right now. They are hands down just the best team right now.
Yeah. Michigan has been putting the hammer to the nail in a lot of those games. Georgia is still pretty strong up there at number 2. You can never hate on Georgia. I mean, they're just a solid program overall. I'd say the 4 spot and the 5 spot, though, like you said, Florida State and Washington, I say those two could be flipped. I mean, Washington has had some pretty big wins. I mean, you look at Florida State. What has Florida State's biggest win been? Either Duke or Clemson. I don't know who they played before that, but
LSU early on.
LSU early on, and they're ranked 14th. They got 2 losses. So I mean, Washington beat Oregon, and I wouldn't bet against them if they just won the conference in general. I mean, if Washington wins their conference, I would put them over FSU, just because of Pac-12 this year has been stacked compared to the ACC. So I mean, Washington wins their conference. I say put them over FSU. But as of now, I mean, it is the first renderings of the college football playoff rankings, so it's hard to tell. But definitely the shocker, Ohio State number 1, Michigan 3. I would even beg that you could put Georgia 1, Michigan 2, Ohio State 3 even. I wouldn't mind if Georgia was at 1. Just keep them there. I mean, they haven't lost in how many years, so. And, Michigan, Ohio State, and do you also look at that and it's like, okay, whoever wins between those two teams, is the other one going to still make it in after that fact? It's tough to tell.
I was going to bring up that too, because you're going to have the Big 12 champion in either Texas or, you assume it's going to be Texas, Oklahoma. So the winner of that's going to come into there begging they don't lose another game, having 1 loss. So then how do you stack them up with having a team like Ohio State? Because you look at Texas right now, Alabama is sitting at the 8th spot. Texas beat Alabama early on. So that is a heck of a win for Texas. They got wins. You would have, if Texas won the Big 12 championship over Oklahoma, you'd have a win against Oklahoma on the season. You would have beat Kansas. You would have beat Alabama. You would have wins against some decent teams right there. That begs to put the Big 12 champion in there. But then you look at, okay, it's going to get dicey because you're going to have the Big Ten champion in there, most likely Georgia. So you have 2 right there. So say Michigan and Georgia. I'm going to pick Michigan as my Big Ten champ right now. Michigan and Georgia. Say Florida State goes undefeated, wins the ACC. Washington goes undefeated, wins the pack. Now what do you do with a Texas team? 1 loss, won the Big 12, and what do you do with them now? Say Georgia loses in the SEC championship game to Alabama. Now you're looking at a 1-loss Georgia team up against a 1-loss Texas team, up against a 1-loss Alabama team. It gets dicey. I mean, I love that they're going to 12 teams because it really helps solidify this field. Because right now, if it shakes out like I just went with, I mean, you'd have Ohio State at 1 loss too. So, I mean, you have a lot of teams that are sitting with 1 loss who all have resumes to say, we could throw them in. So it's going to get dicey, but like you said, only the first ranking. We got plenty more to go here. It's just week 10 right now, so we have a couple more weeks of college football yet before we have to worry about what's going on there. But with that, that is about all we have for today. We got deep into the Packers, talking about Gutekunst and everything that's wrong with Green Bay right now. We went into the Badger basketball a little bit. Can't wait for that season to start there. And what is going to come of this college football season as a whole. But with that, that is about all we have for today. Thank you guys for listening. We will be back tomorrow for the weekend preview. It's been great talking with you all. Deuces.